Mr. Drella, this is Dan Snow. Could you remind the mayor to make sure he uses his microphone?
You just did. By the way, we're on TV.
Okay. All right.
Get your own microphone.
You don't have to worry about that.
I know everybody was concerned, but I have my Snapple here.
Snapple. Is that what he said?
Oh, yes, he has a Snapple with him. A diet Snapple.
They still make that stuff? I thought they took that off the market.
Mr. Mayor, it is 7 p.m. Did somebody just join the call?
Countryman?
Well, it's not. I think it's Six Flags and Waters.
When it warmed up the other day? Yeah. The pipe expanded up.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, we had to go up and
But yeah,
put it back
it's fine.
on the sidewalk and then the concrete. That's what we're gonna do. Tighten it all to the track column now. Brent told me to fix it. Really easy.
Oh, is that why? I'll leave. No, we can do it.
All right, Alan and I can look for it.
Al can take my spot.
Yeah.
Sorry to say you.
Nice try, thank you.
Okay. All right. Are you ready?
Yep. Use your mic.
Call the April 6th, 2020 Belvidere City Council regular meeting to order. The clerk will call the roll.
Arifalo?
Here.
Brereton?
Here.
Crawford?
Here.
Frank?
Here.
Freeman?
Here.
McGee? Porter?
Here.
Ratcliffe?
Here.
Snow?
Here.
Stevens?
Here.
10 participating.
Okay, thank you. If you're watching this on a screen, you'll notice that I have a mask on. I'm really doing this to let you know that we have reached a different level, and the Health Department of Boone County says when you're out and about, please wear a mask. And when you're inside, make sure that you properly distance. It's probably going to be hard for people to understand me with this mask on, so I'll take it off for the rest of the meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
United States of America,
for which it
by which
stands,
republic,
one
stands,
nation,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
and justice
liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, in this time of COVID-19, we pray. When we are not sure, help us to be calm. When information comes from all sides, correct or not, help us to discern. When fear makes it hard to breathe and anxiety seems to be the order of the day, slow us down, Lord. Help us to reach out with our hearts when we can't touch with our hands. Help us to be socially connected when we have to be socially distant. Help us to live as perfectly as we can, knowing that the perfect love casts out all fear. Give us clarity in our minds, strength in our work and discernment, rest as we sleep, peace in our minds. Be with those who need help more than ourselves. Help us to see what we can offer from your love. We need each other now more than ever, supporting one another in our work, but also mentally and spiritually. Help us to rise against this calamity, being the best and strongest we can be, for hope today and the promise of a bright and better future for all of mankind. These things we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Okay, how is everybody? Everybody well at home?
Yeah, so far.
Doesn't sound so good. Okay. Under public comment this evening, we have one request for public comment. It comes from Pamela Lopez-Fettis, who is the Director of Growth Dimensions, concerning the budget. Ms. Fettis?
Thank you. I had asked some of my board members, they wanted to be here today, but of course we're not able to and thought it would be wise not to. So they asked me to read some comments that they had. The first one is from John Wolf, our Growth Dimensions Board President, to Belvidere City Council and Mayor Chamberlain. I appreciate so much the partnership with the City of Belvidere and Growth Dimensions, both as a Belvidere businessman, community volunteer, and personal citizen. Economic development and employment for our city continues to be the life and blood of all retail activity here, and the completion of those businesses is phenomenal. Growth Dimensions staff continues to administer Belvidere's Enterprise Zone program and has facilitated over $575 million in capital investments in the past 3 years. We have had a wonderful addition to our staff to market and facilitate and compete in this region. Belvidere is in a position to develop more to market. Belvidere is in a position to develop more economic development for Belvidere, Boone County, and Growth Dimensions will play a vital role for those businesses to come here rather than in neighboring cities. Thank you all again for your continued support of Growth Dimensions. Sincerely, John Wolf. The next one is from our Michael St. John, Board Treasurer for Growth Dimensions, Belvidere, Boone County, also Associated Bank, Retirement Plan Consultant. Dear Belvidere City Council, I want to take a moment to thank the Council, Mayor Chamberlain, and the citizens of Belvidere, Illinois for continuing partnership with Growth Dimensions of Boone County. Never before in my 10 years working with staff and the Board of Growth Dimensions can I remember a time where the organization was more focused and on the goal of enhancing the lives of local residents through its efforts to attract, retain, and grow businesses in the local economy. We have a great staff who has invested personally in the success of this community, and we ask for your continued support of our efforts. Let me express our sincere gratitude for allowing Growth Dimensions to continue its work with the City of Belvidere toward a more prosperous tomorrow for its citizens, our neighbors, and friends. And the last one actually comes from a new person on our team, Heather Wick. We actually added her position as Business Enterprise Manager for Growth Dimensions. Good evening, council members. For those who may not know me, please allow me to take a moment to introduce myself. My family, the Sells, have been part of Boone County for more than a century, living in Belvidere since the 1910s. I am proud to be a Belvidere native and have the honor to raise my son and daughter within this family-friendly community. I have seen this community thrive, and I have also seen and lived through its struggles. Now, more than ever, I see firsthand the people and the organizations working for the continued growth and well-being of our local businesses and citizens. Prior to joining Growth Dimensions in October 2019, I had a basic understanding of what I thought Growth Dimensions' role was within the city and Boone County. I knew they worked to attract businesses to the area and aided businesses in growing their footprint. I also knew they interacted with various agencies and organizations to provide resources to businesses. However, now that I've had a full view of what Growth Dimensions does, I can tell you that I completely underestimated their programs and services to not only Belvidere, but to the entire Northern Illinois region. It may sound cliche, but no day is typical. The hours spent complying with the demands of the enterprise zone could equate to a full-time job within itself. Thanks to your support, we have been able to expand our capabilities to support this ever-growing program, continue to provide excellent services to new and existing businesses. I know Pam has shared the extensive work that goes into managing each enterprise zone project, but it is hard to convey through a chart and the pride that each member at Growth Dimensions puts into assisting businesses. Your financial support allows us to service and nurture the businesses within the enterprise zone. Outside the enterprise zone, we continually tasked with a multitude of requests from prospective companies looking to expand into other geographical areas. These requests routinely ask for a site, zoning, incentive, employment, infrastructure, and regional information. We take the time to effectively and efficiently answer these requests, all while shedding a positive light on Belvidere and all it has to offer. Your support allows us to have a local expert answering those questions as opposed to someone who may not have vested interest in Belvidere or Boone County. There are endless opportunities created through our partnerships with Growth Dimensions. We were a strong supporter and leader of the development and implementation of the District 100's career pathways. We continue to work closely with the District 100 to collaborate efforts to retain, support a skilled workforce in and around Belvidere and Boone County. Our ability to have a workforce is crucial to supporting our new and existing businesses in our area. We are proud to be on the front lines of that effort. Your support gives us the means to continually provide the betterment of the students and their future right here and in Belvidere. We meet on a monthly basis with local, state, and national business leaders, organizations, and government agencies to discuss and implement strategies to attract and retain businesses in Belvidere and Boone County. Remaining committed to the prosperity of our local economy, we routinely meet with local businesses, organizations, and nonprofits to develop community-wide initiatives to enhance and promote businesses where we live, work, and play. There are countless other examples I could give detailing Growth Dimensions' contributions to the city and county and the region, but that can go on forever, and I want to be respectful of your time. Collectively, the Growth Dimensions staff is working to implement an efficient and timely means of communication to ensure all of our investors receive timely updates on our projects, priorities, and accomplishments to show the positive impacts of your investment. With continued support, we can remain committed to giving the care and attention truly needed to truly develop our community with local leadership and local decision-making. I encourage you again to approve the budget as recommended to ensure the prosperity and growth of Belvidere's current businesses, prospective businesses, and families. Thank you for your time. Respectfully, Heather Wick. And I just wanted to say my own words that we have through this. This is the time to invest in your economic development. Economic development is very critical in trying to help businesses from these type of what we call disaster plan, areas in which we have to kind of think about what our future holds. And it means not only keeping our existing businesses here, but working with government and businesses in order to foresee what the future lies and how we can help them better be best suited to have a footprint, remain a footprint here in Boone County and in Belvidere. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Pamela. That ends public comment. I don't see anyone else that signed up to speak to us this evening. Next up, we have approval of minutes. Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of the Belvidere City Council of March 16, 2020 is presented. I'll entertain a motion to approve. Motion by Alderman Stevens. May I have a second?
Second that.
Second by Alderman Arivalo. Questions, comments, or proposed amendments to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval will, when your name is called, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
Arivalo.
Aye.
Brereton.
Aye.
Crawford.
Aye.
Frank.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
McGee.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Ratcliffe.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Stevens. 10 in favor.
Okay, the minutes are approved unanimously. Next up, we have a public hearing on the annual budget for 2020-21 fiscal year. I will read to you the notice of hearing. City of Belvidere, Illinois, notice of public hearing, annual budget ordinance. Notice is hereby given that the corporate authority of the City of Belvidere, Illinois, will hold a public hearing at 7 p.m. Monday, April 6, 2020, on Ordinance 486H, the proposed annual budget for the 2021 fiscal year. Public hearing shall take place in the City Council Chambers, 401 Whitney Boulevard, Belvidere, Illinois. Copies of the proposed annual budget ordinance are accessible for the examination by the public during business hours at the office of the Belvidere City Clerk at 401 Whitney Boulevard, Belvidere, Illinois. City of Belvidere, Illinois, Sarah Turnipseed, City Clerk. This was published in the Belvidere Daily Republican on March 19th, 2020. Do we have anyone present who would like to comment on the budget ordinance in the public hearing? Hearing none, please note, clerk will please note, we entered the public hearing at 7:17 and concluded the public hearing at 7:19 on March 19th, 2020. Next up, we have special messages and proclamations. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank everybody in this community for the patience that they have exhibited as we face something we've never had to deal with in our lifetime. It'll take all of us working together to work through this. And I have to say the generosity and character and goodwill of the people of Belvidere has been exceptional. And we're entering into a pretty tough couple of weeks now. And so we appreciate all that you have been willing to absorb as we do this. And it's going to get a little harder before it gets a little easier. But we're here for you. I can't thank our staff, our city departments. They've been tremendous. We have been able to work with the community to provide the necessary resources to help deal with this. And there are little stories that I keep hearing from people of kindnesses among strangers, kindnesses to our public servants, and kindnesses from our fire department, police department, public works toward our citizens. So we will get through this together, so hang in there, Belvidere. Next up, we have approval of expenditures, of which we have none. Number 8 is committee reports and minutes of city officers. We have just the minutes that we are dealing with tonight, so that brings us to minutes of the Committee of the Whole, Public Safety and Finance and Personnel of March 23rd, 2020. I will entertain a motion to approve.
Dan
Motion.
Snow will make that motion.
Motion by Alderman Stevens, second by Alderman Crawford. Questions, comments, or proposed amendments to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the minutes will, when your name is called, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
Brereton.
Aye.
Crawford.
Aye.
Frank.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
McGee.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Ratcliffe.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
Arivalo,
Aye.
10 in favor.
Minutes are passed unanimously. Thank you. Under number 9, unfinished business, our first item will be the budget. And prior to our delving into that, a couple of things I'd like you all to know. In the last 2 weeks, all of us here at City Hall have been working ungodly hours to try to keep our heads above water as this crisis deepens. But I will tell you somebody who has put in more time than anybody else, and that is Ms. Tobin, who has worked very hard on re-examining the budget, trying to figure out how we're going to deal with this crisis, and she has some things that she'd like to share with you before we get into the voting phase of this. Ms. Tobin?
Let's see. Before we get started, I know one question most of you probably have is, should we be making adjustments to the budget before passing your budget ordinance? Working on this the last couple weeks, there's so many different unknowns and what-if scenarios right now. It's really way too early to put together what I would really call an educated assumption at this point, is into making changes to the budget and the different revenue sources that are going to be affected by this pandemic. So at this time, I do not recommend making any adjustments as far as the COVID-19 virus is concerned. Obviously, you're welcome to, if there's other items you want to discuss or that you had in mind, that's fine. But in my opinion, as far as totally redoing the budget based on what's happened the last few weeks, I do not recommend that we do so at this time. One thing to keep in mind, even if we approve the budget the way it is, you can, as the alderman, you can still have all the department heads come back to you for any of the capital expenses that are in the budget before approving them. Any of the new employees that have been added to this budget, you can request that there is no hiring and that at a later date, 3 months, 6 months from now, they come back to you and make that request if it is appropriate at that time. So just because you're putting something in the budget does not mean it has to be spent, and it doesn't mean that you're authorizing for it to be spent.
And Mr. Mayor, if I could, I'd
Yes.
actually take that one step further. As you all know, and when we have capital projects that come forward to the council during the year, they're often already budgeted amounts, but the administration and staff have no authority to expend money for capital expenditures and new positions and things like that without council approval, even if it is a budgeted amount. Obviously, day-to-day expenses and routine expenses like office supplies or fuel for the fuel depot, those you still approve through the budget process, but it's more of a routine nature. But any capital expense which is in the budget or any new position for an employee that is in the budget is not actually approved by the budget. It would not be approved until it's brought back to City Council at a future date.
Okay. All right, then. Under item A, ordinance 486H, a second reading. It's ordinance budgeting for all corporate purposes for the city of Belvidere, Boone County, Illinois, for the fiscal year beginning May 1, 2020, and ending April 30th, 2021. May I have a motion to approve the budget?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Alderman Arivalo.
Alderman Crawford, second it.
I think Alderman Stevens beat you to it, George, but thank you. You're the third, so we have a motion and a second. We'll open it up for discussion concerning the motion that's now on the floor. Does anyone have items that they wish to discuss further this evening? Hearing none.
I do.
Excuse me?
I do.
Would you state your name for the
Alderman
record,
Freeman
please?
here.
Okay, Alderman Freeman, please continue.
I just like to say I respectfully disagree with Becky. We don't know how long this is going to go on. We are certain it's going to affect not only our state but our local revenues, and it's going to therefore trickle down to whatever we get from the state. Concerning the motor fuel tax, obviously when nobody's driving, that's a huge hit in our revenue. The projected $1 million between that and the NFT, I'm not counting on any of that money. This COVID thing could go on for weeks. It could go on for months. We don't know. I personally think we should amend the budget to reflect a huge reduction in revenue.
Ms. Tobin, do you have a reply?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Ms.
No.
Tobin will reply to your comments, Alderman Freeman.
And there are some things that are going to be affected, but like you said, we don't know how long this is going to last. And any changes I make right now would be assumptions. They would not reflect anything concrete, which is why I don't feel like it's necessary at this time. The other thing you need to remember that's not in the budget is the gas use utility tax that you passed last month. We did not even include that revenue into our current budget. So that is additional revenue that we will be receiving that is not even reflected in this budget. So I was comfortable knowing, you're right, there are going to be, some of our revenues are going to be down, but I was comfortable with that additional revenue coming in from the gas tax, that we would be able to cover that.
Additional questions or comments concerning the motion now on the floor?
Yeah, Alderman Burton.
Yes, Alderman Burton.
I'm Alderman Freeman, and I'm looking to make as many cuts tonight to this budget process as possible. I'm not passing this budget as it is now.
Okay, Ms. Tobin?
And that's fine, and these are things that I wish you would come and talk to me about before tonight. Our office is strapped. We are extremely busy right now. We're down a person. Sarah and I are doing payroll by ourselves. The final hour for me to be making all these changes just makes it very, very difficult.
Okay. Does anybody else question? Yes, Alderman Stevens.
Alderman Crawford.
You said we can pass it as is, and then any major changes down the road because of less income, we can do it then. We can pass it as is tonight, and
Alderman Stevens, I don't know, I can barely hear up here. I don't know if they can hear you on the phone.
okay, as Vicki said, we can pass it as is tonight, and if there is a big downturn in income, we can adjust it at a later date, 2-3 months from now. You know, instead of going all night tonight, it will be a thing as it comes up, like you said, when we go to hire somebody, when we go to actually do the work, we'll vote on it then, up or down.
Thank you. Alderman Crawford, I believe you had some comments?
Alderman Crawford.
Go ahead.
I believe, I agree with Becky. I think we should stay steady on the budget, and we can always do something later on if something gets drastic, but we're not at that point of drastic. And I believe the budget should stay the way it is.
Okay. Any other comments or questions concerning the motion now on the floor?
Yes, Alderman Burton.
Yes, Alderman Brereton.
You know, along the same lines as what you guys are saying, we can always amend this budget the other way. Fine. If things are looking better, you know, then we can go ahead and add some stuff back in. So I don't agree. And the first thing I propose we cut are any raises.
Alderman, or Mr. Mayor, I can reply to part of
the
that.
city attorney will reply to that, Alderman Brereton.
With respect to the amendment of a budget, it is much more difficult to amend a budget later on than it is to pass a budget now. If you try to amend a budget at a later date, it requires a 2/3 supermajority vote of the city council to do an amendment. And on top of that, in the amendment, you're supposed to identify increased revenues at that point which justify that expenditure, whereas opposed to the current system where if you, a budget is simply, it's not an authority to spend. It is just that, a plan for the coming year. The expenditures would still have to come back to the city council to be approved by you at some point when the need to do the purchase or the contract arises and you have a chance to look at the city's financial position at that point. So for example, the new hires of the CSOs in the police departments or the additional firefighters in the fire department, even if those numbers are in the budget, they cannot be accomplished. Those people cannot be hired until the fire chief or the police chief comes back to the council and says, okay, this is why we think we need them, and this is where the revenue is coming from to justify that hire. If it's not in the budget, it makes it much more difficult to accomplish whatever goals the council wants to do at that point in the year. So that goes to the amendment process. It is not necessarily impossible, it's just more cumbersome than handling it in this manner. The second part as to salaries, please keep in mind that the vast majority of employees at the city of Belvidere are subject to collective bargaining agreements. We cannot reduce those salaries by law.
And I'll add to that. When we craft our negotiations with the unions, we create four-year contracts that are fair for everyone. We also offer those same raises to the people who are non-union people. Becky, what percentage would you say are non-union and union?
It's a small percentage. You have about 15, 16 employees that are.
Yeah, they can't hear if you're on.
Yeah, sorry, I gotta press my button. You have less than 20 that are non-union.
And how many total employees do we have?
150?
So, Mr. Burton, are you positing that we should punish 20 employees who are non-union people? That's not going to save any money when we have 100.
Don't give me that. You got people that don't even know how they're going to pay their bills now, and they're going to pass out raises. No.
130 employees are going to get their raises no matter what because they were collectively bargained. There is nothing you can do about that.
Mayor Alderman Crawford.
Sure. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, first of all, the only one you can hear really good is the city attorney. If people could talk into their mics closer. But I don't agree with Alderman Burton. You're paying the firemen and policemen.
That's not what I'm talking about.
I know, a set thing in the contract. Why should the other people in the city stand for no raise when the firemen and policemen do? That's not fair, and it's not right.
Well, then maybe we need to renegotiate the contracts.
You're not going to you're lucky that we got a contract as good as we did.
We will renegotiate the contract when the contracts come due in another year and a half.
Could I say something, Alderman Frank?
Yes, Alderman Frank.
I would like to say it's not a punishment. I think that people cannot afford to be given raises at this time. It's not punishment.
I beg to differ with you, because you're singling out people who, quite frankly, are underpaid for the work they do when you compare to what other municipal administrative employees get paid. And you're signaling out maybe 20 people out of 150 people that would not get a raise. And now that is not fair. Any other comments?
Every year.
Mayor Alderman Crawford?
Yes, Alderman Crawford.
Yeah, the one thing Alderman Frank is not thinking about, you got a guy that we hired on Public Works. He's the superintendent of streets, superintendent of the water department, and superintendent of one other thing. I can't remember what it is. But he took the place of three guys. I mean, two extra guys. There's three. And he don't nearly make the pay what those three together made. So you're wrong in that.
No, because if you add up the raises,
deserve a raise no matter what. The firemen and policemen got one. They deserve one. We're going to get through this. The budget is just fine.
If you look at parity across,
Alderman Frank, you vote what Alderman Burton does. Of course you are.
okay, Brooks, Crawford.
excuse me,
Yeah, you don't talk about Brooks because I'll tell you later.
excuse me. Across the region, if you compare our salaries for our union people or for our administrative people, they are at low level of what people in these jobs get paid. Because you don't want to pay them doesn't mean they're not worth the money that they earn. And quite frankly, how are we going to keep the caliber of employees that we have if we start doing these kind of things to people? We're not going to save collectively enough money from the budget to change the budget. And now we can't reopen the union negotiations unless there is agreement by both the unions and administration. So what you're proposing is not a reality. Is there anybody else that wishes to comment on the motion that's now on the floor?
I would.
Alderman Snow would like to
Alderman
comment.
Freeman.
Alderman Snow, and then Alderman Freeman.
Yeah, I have to agree with the administration that keeping the budget as it stands right now is the best course. It's a work in progress. It's subject to change. Alderman Freeman brought up about the motor fuel tax and things like that. Well, most of that money can't be spent unless it's there from that fund. So we can't pave a bunch of streets with fictional money or on the reserves. It can only be done with the motor fuel tax. We don't get it, we can't pave it. The rest of the people, this is the cost of doing business. No matter where you are, in most cases, in the private sector, you have to give raises in order to keep your people. Otherwise, they're going to move on. You don't want a bunch of these people just moving on unnecessarily because 20 people aren't going to get their raise. Well, those 20 people don't get their raises, and they all start moving on. We're going to be in a big world of hurt. And I think we get a lot of bang for our buck, and I give kudos to the administration and those employees all across the city, both union and non-union, that give us great services. And this is the cost of business. Loaf of bread goes up, everything goes up. Nothing's going to go down. We took a big, huge hit back in the day during the Great Recession, and we're still not back where, in theory, everybody should be. Okay, so this idea that you're going to just cut, well, you better come up with some ideas because we're at the last line here of doing that. And you should have brought this up even before the corona came up. This is not the time to start jacking around with a document that's basically a guideline and a coursework for the administration and the departments to move forward. That's it.
Ms. Freeman?
Okay, so I have several things to say, so hear me out. First of all, it's not just the motor tax and the TRF that we are probably going to take a huge hit from the state on. It's also our sales tax. It's also our revenue that we get from our gaming machines. It's basically everything that goes on in this community, we're going to take a hit from. Whether it's a hit for a month, whether it's a hit for 6 months, or whether it's a hit for the whole year, we don't know. I understand that we can always not approve capital projects as they come up, but there are other things in the budget that are not capital projects that I was sincerely hoping that our finance director was going to come forth with tonight as saying these are the cuts that I recommend we do. We can always go back and say, you know what, we have money for this that we didn't think we were going to have. Now, as far as the non-union raises, I think that under the circumstances, our salaried employees would be more than happy to forego their raises, being in the condition that we're in. 2.5% increase, just a given every single year. I don't know too many people other than union employees who pay union dues and negotiate their contracts. I don't know anybody else that gets 2.5% yearly. So I think for 1 year, not asking too much. Nobody's saying that nobody's ever going to get another raise. We're just saying that we are in an unprecedented time, and we don't know what's going to happen. And once they're given, they can't be taken back. So let's just wait and see how this year plays out. I don't want another 2008 where we're dipping into our reserves to pay for non-essentials. I want this budget to be 100% essential services only. And if we have money left over, then great. In 2022, we can do all the projects that we want. But for this budget, I think it should be skin and bones.
Well, I'd like to respond to that. First of all, this is the highest amount of raise in the four-year sequence so far. 12 years. It's 2% a year, which doesn't even meet the cost of living increases that are put out by the government. Also, we're not going to spend any money we don't have, so it's irrelevant. If we don't have the money, we're not going to spend it. So taking it out of the budget doesn't do anything, quite frankly. Becky, you were doing some figuring over there. You want to share?
Your 19 non-union employees, their raise is $27,197.82. That's what it comes to.
That's a start.
Yep.
And I'd also like to comment, I would never show up tonight with changes to the budget. I would have done it 2 weeks ago or a month ago, because way too much goes into this for me to propose changes to you at the second reading.
We've been working on this budget since January, and everybody's had multiple bites at the apple. Anybody else have any comments about the motion which is now on the floor?
In January, we didn't know we were going to be hit with a global pandemic.
Exactly.
Okay, does anybody else have any comments on the motion now on the floor?
What's the motion on the floor? Is it the budget or mine to cut raises?
The motion is to pass or fail the budget.
Well, I made a motion, I want to cut the raises.
Okay, do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Is that
Mayor,
Frank?
Yes.
One second, Mr. Mayor, if we can clarify what raises we're talking
What
about.
raises are you talking about?
Non-union.
We have a motion and a second on the floor to cut all non-union raises. Do we offer that as an amendment?
That's a motion to amend.
Motion to amend the budget to cut all non-union raises. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor will, when your name is called, all of those when your name is called will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
Crawford,
Absolutely not.
Frank,
Yes.
Freeman,
Aye.
McGee,
Aye.
Porter,
No.
Ratcliffe,
No.
Snow,
No.
Stevens,
No.
Arivalo,
Nay.
Brereton,
Aye.
4 in favor.
Motion is lost.
Alderman Crawford?
Yes, Alderman Crawford.
I just want to make a quick comment. I've seen that a lot, but I want to make a quick comment. Anybody that voted really for that amendment, they'd be the first ones crying if they didn't get their raises coming in. I just don't get a raise.
Yeah, I don't get a raise.
No, your dad owns a business, Rick. Well, I own a business, George. Whatever. Well, I guess this whole meeting is pointless, so you're just going to pass any budget you want, so should I just hang up?
That would be up to you, sir.
It's up to you. Not you.
Okay, any further comments of the budget or ordinance which is now on the floor?
Alderman Burton.
Yes, Alderman.
I make a motion to refer this back to committee.
No. Is there any other conversation? We can't refer this back to committee, can we?
What's today's date, the 6th? 1 second.
The city attorney is thinking about this.
We are required by law to pass this budget by May 1.
So we got 3 weeks.
I'm sorry, by the first meeting in May, not May 1. That would be actually May 4th, but
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to refer this back to the committee. We have a motion and a second.
Who was the second?
Snow would like to make a comment.
Okay?
I think that's a bad idea. We need to move forward. Any of these kind of cuts that you're talking about, whether it was Corona or a disaster, some other disaster, a tornado hitting downtown, it doesn't make any sense to sit there and try to change all this at the last minute. What's going to happen is you people are going to wind up like we did a year and a half ago, where we had to have a special meeting before the tax levy so that we could actually get the money from the county. You people can't try to do this at the last minute and make these absurd comments of, we're just going to cut, we're going to cut. You can't just cut. It's a cost of doing business. And when it comes to raises, even in my industry, generally speaking, we get some kind of raise, and it's usually towards the cost of living raise. Most businesses give raises. If you're in a private ownership of a business, that's a different entity. You know, that's a different profit margin. You may not get a raise, but that's your own issue. That's not everybody else's issue. It's the cost of doing business. The city administration is a business. You can't run it like, oh, hey, we're not going to give raises. And to sit there and say you're going to cut all these administrations and people of their 2.5% raise, you're not making sound decisions. It sounds really good and the rhetoric sounds really great, but you're really not doing anybody a favor. And you're making, in my opinion, you're just setting up a bad trend. And I'm not going to be voting in favor of sending this back to committee.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
We were unable to hear who made the second on the motion to refer to committee.
Who made the second on the motion to refer back to committee?
I did.
Thank
Okay,
you.
it'd be Alderman Freeman. So we have a motion and
I
a
have something
second.
to say too. So when we pass these budgets, and this is the third one I've worked on, all this stuff is in these budgets, and it's numbers and it's line items, and you know when we sit in council and committee, stuff doesn't come to us for every single dollar that is spent as, do you approve spending this on the office supplies, or do you approve spending this on, you know, we get the big ticket items as capital things or infrastructure things from Brent. You know, we get the bills payable every month, and we get to comment and question things that have already been spent because it's already in the budget. You know, and I look through the bills payable every month, and I think, wow. But you know what? It was in the budget, so it got spent. And now I can't say we shouldn't have spent that because it's already budgeted. All I can say is, why did we spend that? Or I can question it, but I can't undo it. And that's what the problem is. You know, these budgets are just, you know, line items in numbers, and then we get the bills payable every month, and it's like, holy crap. You know, I just, when you're when your job is cut and your revenue is cut, you cut expenses. wherever you can, however you have to do it. And, that's where we're at right now, in reality. This isn't, some fantasy, everything goes on as normal. This is reality. We need to figure out how we're going to make this work without tapping into our reserves. And with this budget, we're not going to be able to do it.
You still are missing the point. As we go along, and we have expenditures that come up, and we don't have the money to spend on them, we will not spend the money. And we will not go in a reserve fund to satisfy the general outline of this budget. We're not going to do capital projects, we're not going to hire people. We will look at it every single month. Ms. Tobin.
Well, I was just going to say, I just pulled up your capital line items that are in this budget are almost $1 million. Only 2 of those items we absolutely have to do because we have a lease on the fire engine and then we're halfway done with the mini pumper. But other than that, you can decide that we don't go through with any of those, and I will be the first to tell you that. I'll tell you straight up every month, no, we cannot go through with this. I'm not comfortable with spending any money. I'm not comfortable with any capital. I'm not comfortable with any new hires. That's part of my job, is to make sure you don't go in the red. And so all of these items just wouldn't happen, and that's over $1 million. So that's why I'm comfortable going through with this budget as it is.
So we have a motion.
I have something to say. Alderman Frank would like to say something.
Alderman Frank.
Well, we are taking money from the reserves to balance the budget, but we're also using that money for Logan Avenue. The reserves should be for something like what we're going through with the pandemic. Why don't we not do Logan Avenue until we have more money and we go through this storm that we're in? Why do we even want to take money from the reserves?
Becky.
Okay, your operating budget does not use any reserves this year. The only reason you're seeing that is because we were moving money from the reserves, which was purposely put there. That's been money that's been earmarked for Logan Avenue. So it's already had its purpose.
I know, but why?
But it's not part of your budget.
We shouldn't do that this year.
Then it's not. It's next year. We won't move that money then. It's in there to move it. If we don't have the money to move it to capital to pay for Logan, we don't.
And again, that's an example. That's an example to have to come back to council at a later date.
And we don't have to move that money. That 1.2 million can sit in the general fund. And the other thing is, you've been good with your spending and your saving. I'm comfortable. We have 6 months plus sitting in our general fund reserve. We have a very healthy reserve balance right now because we have been diligent in our spending.
Brett, do you want to talk to them about what?
So are you saying we're not going to take that money out, or we are?
You can, if we decide, or if you decide as council that 1.2 million should stay in the general fund, then we don't move it, or we'll wait until later. I wouldn't move it anyway till the end of the fiscal year anyway. I wouldn't be moving it till probably almost a year from now anyway. So there's plenty of time to decide whether Logan Avenue should go forward or we should move that money or not.
Director Anderson, I believe, has a comment. Director Anderson?
Again, getting back to the MFT comments, the money basically has to be there for us to spend it. We get authorization from the state that oversees those funds to expend those funds. So there's really 2 checkpoints, and I'm certainly not going to bring the projects forward and go if the funds aren't there available for us to utilize. And again, those are typically done at some point during the summer. Typically, we go out to bid usually the end of April or 1st of May for our overlay projects and have that work completed by July. And we can always push that off depending on what the outcome is. And who knows, as things progress the way they've been progressing, they might even put a halt on all our construction projects anyway. So we won't be able to expend that money even if we had the funds available to do so until this pandemic is over. So that's as far as on the MFT goes. As far as our capital funds, yes, anything that we do now, there's a motion later on in this meeting on the agenda for that additional $50,000 for Logan Avenue for the engineering. And again, because of the timing of that project, the utilities are requiring of us to provide them with 90% plans. So in order to do that, to make that original schedule that we had for doing Logan Avenue next year, we need to have those utility work done this year. as if they can, to progress. So my recommendation at this point in time, because the funds are available in there, is to do that. But again, if you decide not to do that, we would push that off, and effectively that would push the cycle for the project for Logan Avenue back 2 years. So instead of looking at construction next year, you'd be looking at construction in 22 with the electrical work done on 21 as an example. Another thing to consider is back in 2008 when we had the economy went south on us, it was during, it wasn't at budget time, so we had to react to that during midstream. And I think we have about 80%, and Becky can correct me if I'm wrong, I think 80% of our budget is probably tied up in salaries and employees, or close to that number for our daily, for our regular operations. And we went through a furlough system back then. So there were several, majority of the city employees were furloughed during that time for the time that was needed to get through that. So that's always the option that's going to be available to you. You have several options to manage a crisis throughout the time of the crisis, as opposed to just cutting off the budget document.
I think it needs to be some clarification on how our budget year runs. It's from May until the following April. So this budget would be in effect starting May 1st through the end of April in 2021. So what we're talking about on Logan Avenue is the 21-22 budget for the actual construction project. We're talking about the funds that we're spending right now for the engineering, so we can be ready for that project if indeed the economy improves. So we're not even looking at spending that money on the Logan Avenue project, that $1.9 million in the budget that we're considering. That's not a capital expense that's even in the budget we're considering for this year. Any additional questions or comments?
Well, I have a question for Becky about that, because on one page, she said there was a $100,000 transfer for Logan Avenue. Was that true that we did a transfer, or we didn't do the transfer?
So it's in the budget to transfer another 100,000, because we had it in there as reserves to move over to Logan Avenue. So in essence, we'd have the 1.2 million from the reserves, an additional 100,000 from this year, so that would make 1.3. So then we would just need, for the following year, we would only need 600,000. So I was trying to decrease the amount in next year's budget, anticipating that there would be other capital expenses that we would, or other projects that we would need to be spending money on. So the more I could,
okay,
if that makes sense. So we just wouldn't move that money.
I have a question about the motor fuel tax, Becky. So the motor fuel tax pays for the pensions, right?
No, the motor fuel tax can only pay for roads.
For roads, okay.
So we have a motion and a second on the floor. Mayor calls the question. All those in favor of approval of referring this back to committee will, when your name is called, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
Frank?
Aye.
Freeman?
Nay.
McGee?
Nay.
Porter?
No.
Ratcliffe?
No.
Snow?
No.
Stevens?
No.
Arivalo?
Nay.
Brereton?
Aye.
Crawford?
Nay.
2 in favor?
Motion is lost. So we are back to the original motion on the floor for the approval of the budget for financial year 2020 ending April 30th, 2021. All those in favor of passing the budget will, when your name is called, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
I'm sorry, I have a question. Excuse me. Did we not already vote on that amendment? So what did we actually just vote on? Because we already voted on the amendment, and there was 4 nays and 6 yeas. So what was that?
Different amendment.
That was
What was the amendment that we just voted on then?
Alderman Freeman, that was Alderman Brereton's motion to refer to committee.
both motions were defeated. So back to the motion on the floor to approve the ordinance budgeting for all corporate purposes for the city of Belvidere, Boone County, Illinois, for the fiscal year beginning May 1, 2020, and ending April 30th, 2021. All those in favor will, when your name is called, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
Freeman.
Nay.
McGee.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Ratcliffe. Snow.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Arivalo.
Aye.
Brereton.
No.
Crawford.
Aye.
Frank.
No.
7 in favor.
The budget ordinance for fiscal year beginning May 1, 2020, and ending April 30, 2021 is approved. Which brings us to item B, ordinance 487H, a second reading, an ordinance amending section 110-92, yield intersections of the City of Belvidere Municipal Code to add Garfield Avenue at West 3rd Street as a two-way yield. May I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Alderman Stevens. May I have a second?
Alderman Frank.
Second by Alderman Frank. Questions or comments concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor of passage of the motion will, when your name is called, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
McGee.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Ratcliffe.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Arivalo.
Aye.
Brereton.
Aye.
Crawford.
Aye.
Frank.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
10 in favor.
Motion is passed unanimously. Thank you. Next up is ordinance 488H, second reading, an ordinance amending Chapter 106 of the City of Belvidere Municipal Code to add a new Article 10, Municipal Gas Use Tax, and authorizing a collection agreement with Nicor Gas Company. May I have a motion to approve?
I'd like to make that motion.
No.
Motion by Alderman Arivalo, second by Alderman Snow. Questions, comments, or further discussion concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval will, when your name is called, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
Porter.
Aye.
Ratcliffe.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Arivalo.
Aye.
Brereton.
No.
Crawford.
Aye.
Frank.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
McGee.
Aye.
9 in favor.
Motion is passed. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on to number 10, new business. Under A, we have ordinance 489H. It's a first reading, which is typically a silent reading, but I will have the city attorney read the ordinance into the record for the folks listening at home. Alderman Grella? Oh, excuse me, promoted you.
Keeps trying to give me a
Attorney
promotion.
Grella?
A promotion, yeah. Unusual for the attorney to read this one, but it's an ordinance amending section 110-2, exceptions of the City of Belvidere Municipal Code. For the alderman that may not recall, this was the amendment to reclassify a speeding ticket, which is a Class B misdemeanor, as a simple petty offense that can be prosecuted by me and handled in court without requiring the arrest or booking of the defendant.
Okay. That will come back for final disposition at City Council. Under item B, we have Resolution 2110-2020, a resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement between the City of Belvidere and Illinois Fiber Resources Group. May I have a motion to approve? Motion to approve?
I thought these were silent readings.
No.
This is a resolution.
This is a resolution. We need a motion and a second. Motion by Clayton Stevens, second
I'll
by
second that.
Daniel Arivalo. Questions, comments, or further discussion concerning the motion now on the floor?
And Mr. Mayor, I'll remind the council that this agreement is for the fiber optic service we have in City Hall. Without that, we cannot do payroll, we cannot communicate with the county, we'd lose access to all of our data servers, and our phone systems wouldn't work.
I have a question.
Yes, Alderman Freeman.
So is this our only alternative, Attorney Girella? If I recall, when I was on City County Committee, Mr.
Taranoni?
Yeah, he had, every month when I went there, he was having all kinds of iFiber issues. I don't recall exactly what they pertain to, but I remember that it was always something with iFiber and our 911 system, I believe, that was always a big sore spot. So I don't know that I think iFiber is a good alternative. Is there any alternatives?
I'll actually answer your question in two parts. Number one is actually three parts. The concerns that you have identified, we also had a few concerns. We originally thought they were with iFiber. It turns out it was not the iFiber network. Rather, we also have to have what's called an Internet Service Provider, an ISP. We utilize Winnebago County IT Department, their county departments. It's a huge cost savings for us. It's drastic savings. They had a switch that wasn't set correctly for us to be able to use. So once that was fixed, we've had no problems with our phones. I believe any issues with the 911 center have been rectified. In fact, I haven't heard any issues coming out of there for quite some time. In answer to you, is there any other alternative? Not any other feasible alternative. The reason why is because, one, we have created essentially a fiber ring with the Logan Avenue facility for the county, the PSB, the 6th Street Fire Station, as well as City Hall. We're all in the same fiber network. If any one of us were to switch to a different fiber network without the other ones also switching, we would lose our connectivity that we need at this point because of the way we've set up our email servers, our phone systems, and our data servers. So we all have to be on the same exact fiber network. The iFiber network provides a huge benefit as opposed to any other one. For example, there was a fiber network out of Kentucky that came into the school district's fiber ring. While they have fiber in the city, it's not set up, think of it as a big circle, so that if one point would get cut, we would all lose connectivity. Because we're set up as a large circle, if we lose one point, one area gets cut by a utility doing work, we still have connectivity because it's in a big circle. So there's a huge redundancy benefit there. And then lastly, frankly, we can't find anything for the cost. While it's a huge cost for us, it's still cheaper than private fiber that's available outside of iFiber.
This is Alderman Snow.
Yes,
Having
Alderman
chaired
Snow.
those committees, what Marcia is thinking of is the general phone system that was being updated to encompass numerous other 911 centers to negate the cost, and it wasn't an iFiber issue. It was a whole phone system to facilitate the 911 network.
And I can't say that the county's phone systems are antiquated, for lack of a better word. They're actually in the process of installing a whole new phone system for the entire county, and as part of that, this council approved us going onto that system as a cost savings and also allow easier interconnectivity with the county.
Additional questions or comments concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval will, when your name is called, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
Ratcliffe? Snow?
Aye.
Stevens?
Aye.
Arivalo?
Aye.
Brereton?
Aye.
Brereton?
Aye.
Crawford?
Aye.
Frank?
Aye.
Freeman?
Aye.
McGee?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
10 in favor.
Motion is approved. Next up, we have Resolution 2111-2020, resolution authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Belvidere and Boone County for information technology services. May I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Alderman Clayton, thank you. Second?
Second.
By Alderman Revo. Questions, comments, or further discussion concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor will, when your name is called, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
Snow,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
Arivalo,
Aye.
Brereton,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
McGee,
Aye.
Porter,
Aye.
Ratcliffe,
Aye.
10 in favor.
Motion is approved unanimously, which brings us to Resolution 2112-2020. A resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement between the City of Belvidere and General Mills Operations for reconstruction of a crosswalk. May I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Alderman Stevens, second by Alderman Crawford. Questions, comments, or further discussion concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor will, when your name is called, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
Stevens,
Aye.
Arivalo,
Aye.
Brereton,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
McGee,
Aye.
Porter,
Aye.
Ratcliffe,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
10 in favor.
Motion is approved unanimously. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Next up, we have motions forwarded from Committee of the Whole, Public Safety and Finance and Personnel of March 23rd, 2020. Motions will be presented by Chairman Ratcliffe. Chairman Ratcliffe, you have the floor.
Motion to accept National League of Cities Institute, NLCI, City Innovation Ecosystem Grant.
Motion out of committee. Questions, comments, or further discussion concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval will, when your name is called, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
Arivalo,
Aye.
Brereton,
No.
Crawford,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
McGee,
Aye.
Porter,
Aye.
Ratcliffe,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
9 in favor.
Motion is approved, and thank you, Chairman Ratcliffe. Next, we have motions of Public Works, which will be presented by Chairman Freeman. Chairman Freeman, you have the floor.
Thank you. B, motion to approve the proposal from Arc Design Resources in an amount not to exceed $50,000 to complete the Phase 2 design engineering for the Logan Avenue Rehabilitation Project. This work will be paid for from the proceeds of the local motor fuel tax.
Motion out of committee. Questions, comments, or further discussion concerning the motion now on the floor?
I have a question.
Alderman Frank, please continue.
I have a question for Becky. Because we are not getting local motor fuel tax because of the pandemic, does she say that this is going to be a problem to pay that $50,000?
I'm not worried about this $50,000. We do have the money to pay this, and we are still getting the local motor fuel tax. We just we won't know for another month to maybe 2 months before what the impact will be going forward. Gas stations are still open. People are still buying gas, just not as much gas. So we're not quite sure what that number is going to look like, but we are still receiving revenue.
I think it's important to note, too, that our share of motor fuel tax increased over the last couple of years. And so while we're seeing price of gas at an all-time low, which is great for everybody, at the same time, we have sufficient motor fuel tax, as Becky said, right now to take care of this. Additional questions or comments?
I have one.
Yes, Alderman Freeman.
My thinking is, would that money be better spent elsewhere?
Would you like to address that, Director Anderson?
That money's been identified for Logan Avenue. Unfortunately, Logan Avenue, as everybody knows, the shape of that surface is getting worse over time and needs to be addressed. And this is the next step in that process to address that. So I'm not sure where else you would spend that $50,000 that would be more effective than doing it to get this work done, which is the next step we need to do in order for the utilities to keep going and working on their realignments that they are required to do. They've had, ComEd has identified 20 poles that they need to get relocated in order to comply with the ADA requirements that we are mandated by guidelines to work our way into. So I would say that this would be a necessary expense at this point in time.
Additional questions or comments? Hope that dog isn't biting you.
The big dog, Alan.
Who's getting the delivery?
Guy.
Any additional questions or comments concerning the motion now on the floor?
Alderman Porter?
Alderman Porter, please continue.
Yes, I just wanted to ask Brent, what would be the consequences of delaying this and putting this on hold at this point here? Because I'm kind of thinking the same way, that we might want to save this money in light of the current circumstances just for a little while. What would be the consequences if we did put it on hold tonight?
If you put it on hold tonight, then the design and basically the project would just stop. Nothing would happen on Logan Avenue until such time as this expense was approved. And the longer you do that, then that pushes the time frame back in as far as the utilities being able to complete their work, and which in turn prevents us from going forward with the reconstruction project. So it just pushes it a matter of fact. So if the pandemic eases in 2 months or 3 months, then you're probably looking at, theoretically, by the time the utility companies finish their work, they'd be pushed back probably to construction year of 21, and you're probably looking to push back work on Logan Avenue proper probably till 22. Again, but that's crystal ball, and who knows how long this pandemic's going to affect. And it might prove, like I said earlier, with if things continue on present course, you might be seeing construction projects themselves shut down, and if that happens, that will push everybody's schedule back. But I think that's about reasonably what we can expect at this point in time.
Alderman.
Snow would like to make a comment.
Go ahead. Alderman Snow, please
So,
continue.
again, we need to keep moving forward, not backwards. The money is there. The $50,000 isn't going to make or break the existence of how things are going to change out with the corona. It's just not. And I can tell you what's going to happen. You stall this for another 6 months. Instead of $50,000, it's going to come back for $55,000. Things don't go down in price. Just like with everything else that's out there, you've got to keep moving forward. The price is not going to go down. It's going to go up. You need to get the work done and keep everybody moving forward.
So rather than do the entire project, which was originally what we had thought we were going to be able to do, please reflect on the fact that we have had Logan Avenue in the program for, 20 years for replacement and repair? Has it been that long now?
Well, it's been quite a while.
So we look at all of the streets, and Logan Avenue is in pretty rough shape. This is a step toward being able to, if the funding is available, to do the larger project. in as early as next year, but if not, we would have to wait to do the larger part of the project, but it doesn't change the fact that all the little pieces have to be done before we can attempt to even schedule looking at doing the major project. Any additional questions or comments concerning the motion now on the floor?
Yeah, I have a question for Brent.
Okay, please continue.
This is Wendy. My question was going to be, he talked about moving the poles on Logan Avenue. ComEd would do that. I can't remember, was there a price for that?
Well, there's two components we're looking at. We're looking at the relocation of the existing poles, which per our franchise agreement, and because of it's a public improvement that we're doing in Logan Avenue, they are required to relocate those poles. So that portion of the work will not be a cost. The other thing we're looking at doing, hopefully anyway, is putting hopefully as many of the lines, existing overhead lines now, underground, especially all the lines that go across, aerially across the road on Logan Avenue. ComEd is currently working on that cost estimate to what that impact will be, and there will be cost to us. That $1.9 million estimate does not include the relocation of their facilities underground. That is a number that I'm waiting for ComEd to provide to us, and they are currently working on that. So when I get that information, we'll also be getting the same information from Frontier for telephone and from the cable company for the cable lines as well. So when I have all that information, that will be presented to City Council for further discussion. But the relocation of the poles is done at ComEd's expense.
Any additional questions or comments concerning the motion now on the floor?
I have a question for Alderman Snow.
Yes.
So Dan, are you saying that if you and your wife had plans to, let's say, redo your driveway, and all of a sudden, your job was eliminated or you got laid off due to something unforeseen, and you were now living on unemployment, which is, like 66% of your pay, as the city might be looking at doing, whether it's for a month or 2 months or 6 months, we don't know, you would just go right ahead and do that driveway project? Is that how you're equating moving forward with stuff?
If you would like to put it that way, yes. But I have, just like the city, I have the wherewithal to make sure I've got enough funds in reserve to carry myself for snafus such as this. So yes, I would most likely proceed forward if I had all my ducks in a row and it needed to progress for the next venture of maybe putting in the garage and behind it. So yes, I would move forward.
I think it's hard to make that comparison because this is a driveway for 26,000 people. Additional questions or comments concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval will, when your name is called, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
Brereton,
No.
Crawford,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Freeman,
No.
McGee,
No.
Porter,
Aye.
Ratcliffe, Snow,
Aye.
Stevens,
No.
Arivalo,
Aye.
six in favor.
Motion is approved. Please continue, Chairman Freeman. Chairman Freeman? Chairman Freeman?
I'm sorry. C, motion to approve the work order from Baxter and Woodman in an amount not to exceed $5,000 for the preparation and submittal of the land application permit to the IEPA. This work will be paid for from the sewer account number 61-5-820-6190.
Motion out of committee. Questions, comments, or further discussion concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none.
Mayor,
Excuse me?
I just wanted to clarify, this is what we pay annually, right?
No, this expense that you're looking at, it's a 5-year permit from the EPA. So this is, it's up for renewal, due for renewal this year. So it's paid for, it's an expense that we pay once every 5 years, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I said annually, but 5 years. Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions or comments concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval, when your name is called, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
Crawford,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
McGee,
Aye.
Porter,
Aye.
Ratcliffe,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
Arivalo,
Aye.
Brereton,
Aye.
So is that an aye or nay?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
10 in favor.
Motion's passed unanimously.
D, motion to purchase 6 trees from Clavy's Nursery in the amount of $870 for the Appleton Road tree planting project.
Motion out of committee. Questions, comments, or further discussion concerning the motion now on the floor?
I have one.
Alderman Frank, please continue.
Okay, mine is for all the motions, but it's, the grant money will pay for this, but could there be a chance that the grant won't pay for it because of what's going on with the pandemic? Or is this a for sure thing?
No, we received assurance through the grant administrator, I believe just last week, that the funding is still present for this project and the projects can move forward. And you are correct, the city will make that expense, pay the initial expense, and then will be reimbursed through the grant proceeds.
Additional questions or comments concerning the motion now on the floor?
I have a question.
Yes, Alderman Freeman.
So is this grant a matching grant? Do we have to match the grant, or can we just take whatever the grant is and buy trees with that?
You are, yes and no, you're correct. It is a matching grant, and our match is in-kind services. So the time that I'm spending on administering the grant, we are going to plant the trees in-house. Our street department employees will be planting. The equipment we use to plant the trees will be street department equipment. We get credit for all those expenses. If we have to keep track of it, we have to submit that. But that is what we are using. We're using a local match, if you will, for the grant. So the dollar amount of the grant proceeds will pay for the trees proper, and then our in-kind services is the planting and the watering and the maintaining of the trees going forward.
Okay, so how much actual dollars, money, will these trees cost us? Does the grant cover the actual dollar amount for all of these trees?
Correct, yes. The grant itself will reimburse the city for the purchase of the trees themselves. So the grant will pay for our direct expenses. We will only incur indirect expenses.
Okay.
Additional questions or comments concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval will, when your name is called, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
Frank,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
McGee,
Aye.
Porter,
Aye.
Ratcliffe,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
Arivalo,
Aye.
Brereton,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
10 in favor.
Motion is approved unanimously.
Motion to purchase 45 trees from J. Carlson Growers in the amount of $6,725 for the Appleton Road tree planting project.
Motion out of committee. Questions, comments, or further discussion concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval, when your name is called, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
Freeman,
Aye.
McGee,
Aye.
Porter,
Aye.
Ratcliffe,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
Arivalo,
Aye.
Brereton,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
10 in favor.
Motion is approved unanimously.
Motion to purchase 18 trees from St. Aubin Nursery in the amount of $3,053 for the Appleton Road tree planting project.
Motion out of committee. Questions, comments, or further discussion concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval will, when your name is called, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
McGee,
Aye.
Porter,
Aye.
Ratcliffe,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
Arivalo,
Aye.
Brereton,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
10 in favor.
Motion is approved unanimously.
E, motion to approve the proposal from Hanson Professional Services in an amount not to exceed $23,975 for the General Mills crosswalk improvements. This work will be paid for from line item number 41-5-110-8020 and reimbursed by General Mills.
Motion out of committee. Questions, comments, or further discussion concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval will, when your name is called, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
Porter,
Aye.
Ratcliffe,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
Arivalo,
Aye.
Brereton,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
McGee,
Aye.
10 in favor.
Motion is approved unanimously, which brings us to the final motion of the evening.
F, motion to approve the block party request at 140 Beacon Drive, on July 11th, 2020, contingent upon termination of the governor's executive orders limiting public gatherings. Barricades will be placed at the intersection of Andrews Drive and Beacon Drive, and a barricade at 152 Beacon Drive.
Motion out of committee. Questions, comments, or further discussion concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval will, when your name is called, signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
Ratcliffe,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
Arivalo, Brereton,
Aye.
Crawford,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
McGee,
Aye.
Porter,
Aye.
10 in favor.
Motion is approved unanimously. Thank you, Chairman Freeman. Next, under number 11, brings us to the end of our festivities this evening. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion, Your Honor.
Motion by Alderman Clayton Stevens, thank you.
I'll second that.
Second by Alderman Daniel Rivolo. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a pleasant evening.